All right. Oh my goodness. Trying to get everything organized here in some reasonable way. Um, hello. It's been a long time since I've been on live. This is a different setup. I hope it's going to work okay. So, today's live topic is brought to you because of so many posts that I've been seeing in homeschool groups lately. I know a lot of people are already back to their school year because of different places where you live. School might already be back in, and so you're following the local school year. Where I live, it's standard. Like this is kind of the week, and next week are the weeks that kids are going back to school. And I'm seeing lots of people getting all frustrated, not frustrated, kind of more they're worried and flustered and trying to find the right language arts curriculum. And I thought, you know what? I want to talk about this today. I really want to talk about this because it doesn't have to be that difficult or complicated. There are people second guessing what they're using, or they're wanting things that are going to match up exactly with the local curriculum, or like the local outcomes, or like school outcomes, I do mean, or they're wanting one thing because they think it's going to make it easier to cover all the different boxes of what they're looking for language arts. Like it's going to cover the spelling and the phonics and the grammar and the writing and the reading comprehension and everything. And I want to tell you, if you're getting caught up in all of that, you're overwhelming yourself. Okay? Language arts does not have to be that difficult. And I know you want to make sure that your kids are learning and that they're progressing well and all of that. And I know a lot of you are thinking, well, I want to make sure they're learning what they need to know. Language arts is not as checklistable, if I could use that as a word, as other subjects. Okay, for math, you can go look at your local government outcomes and see, okay, they need to learn this, and this. Language arts is far more complicated, and yet it's a lot easier to meet because all language arts really is reading, writing, speaking, listening, and viewing. Okay, so reading, yes, you might need to work on phonics, but you might not need to. So don't automatically assume that you need to work on all of these different things. But phonics is involved if your child is learning to read. Usually, either they're learning it just from you reading to them and pointing things out, or you're using it as something more structured, I guess. But so reading is the encoding, is or the decoding. So we're looking at the sounds of letters, figuring out words, but it's also reading comprehension, right? People learned how to read for centuries without any fancy curriculum. Okay, so don't get into your head that you need something that's going to cover all the bases. There are lots of great reading curriculums out there. Which one is the best is going to depend on if your child even needs one, if it's a good match for your personality and what you're wanting to do, if it's even a good match for your child. I have seen families where one curriculum worked great for one child and not so great for another. In my own case, I have one child who learned at a very young age to read just by watching me work with somebody else on the phonics. And then another one who I have no idea how he learned to read. He just was suddenly reading one day. So don't automatically assume you have to do all these different things for language arts. You could end up, it just seems like the way so many homeschool moms are looking at language arts, you might have to spend hours doing language arts just to cover all of the boxes you're trying to check off. So just keep in mind, reading books to your child may be enough. If not, there are a whole bunch of different phonics programs, and then I know, oh, but I want everything all in one. Okay, we'll get to that in a little bit. All right. I'm just gonna change this. I don't want top chat, I want live chat. Okay. So next part of language arts is the writing. And that is writing the letters, that's writing the sounds, it's the handwriting, it is the ideas, it's the grammar, it's the punctuation. In schools here, we don't typically do extra lessons on grammar things or whatever, unless we see that the kids need them. There are some teachers, yes, they have their resources that they love and they use it all. My personal experience as a substitute teacher in the past 7 years, as well as a classroom teacher few different times, has been that, especially with growing class sizes, that those kinds of resources can end up being busy work. For a child who doesn't need all of that, you might think, "Oh, well, it's reinforcing stuff." Well, in a way, but if they're reinforcing like, if 90% of the work that they're doing is reinforcing stuff that they already know and are not going to forget, then it's busy work, right? It's just keeping them busy, and it's making you feel like, "Oh, they're doing their language arts." But if we have our focus as moving forward in reading and moving forward in writing, then we can see that getting caught up in a curriculum is going to be keeping them contained. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So, and I know I'm kind of going, I don't have anything written out for this really. So, just kind of going off the cuff here. But writing is all these things, and there are different ways to approach writing. Like Charlotte Mason and some other related approaches focus on copy work for those first, like up until grade 3, like including grade 3. That's all the kids do for writing is copy work. And other parents are, and I know I've encountered moms who are like, well, is that enough though? Like, enough for what? For the Charlotte Mason approach? Absolutely. And it's worked for so many families and so many kids. If you have a child who like, writing doesn't have to be complicated. The brave writer approach, in my opinion, is one of the gentlest, most natural ways to approach writing because it's focusing on getting those conversations going. Writing is supposed to be what we're thinking and put down on paper. And a lot of this curriculum stuff is not getting the kids' thoughts on paper necessarily. It's teaching them all kinds of stuff about writing and without them expressing themselves. And that's actually the key, right? That's what's most important is them learning how to express themselves on paper. So handwriting is like maybe you want to have a handwriting curriculum, maybe you don't. Do your children need it? Will they benefit from it? What do I try to say here? So writing is handwriting. It is the content, it is the spelling, it is the grammar, it is the mechanics. But if you are trying to cover all of this in one and it's stuff your kids don't need to be covering specifically, then you're taking away all of that time spent on grammar and mechanics and all of that is taking away from them expressing themselves on paper. Even if the early steps of expressing themselves on paper is them dictating to you and you're writing it on paper, or they're dictating to you and then you're writing it down and they're copying it. Okay. We have to get out of our minds that kids need to learn all this stuff so that they can write. They can write, and then we need to figure out what is it that they need to fine tune. That is going to really move them more forward than any curriculum. A curriculum, and those of you who know me from groups will know that a curriculum, I say it all the time, a curriculum is a tool, not a requirement. So we're looking for, if we want a curriculum, we're looking for a tool that is going to help us help our kids move forward. If you don't know where your kids are, then you're going to pick something that you have no idea if it's going to be too hard, too easy, or anything like that. And that's totally normal, but you're picking this whole curriculum just so it makes you feel good in a way. So it makes you feel like you are covering everything, but you don't need to cover necessarily all that stuff, right? I feel like I'm going around in circles here. The point being, don't rush into a curriculum, okay? And I'll add that most curriculums do not focus in any way or did not include really any kind of listening aspect to it or any speaking aspect to it or any viewing aspect to it. And those are all parts of language arts because they're all part of language, right? It's all part of processing language and understanding language and producing language. So, reading comprehension, for example, one of the best ways to improve reading comprehension is not finding the right curriculum. It's having really good conversations about what you read to your kids or what they read themselves. And you use those reading comprehension questions with them in conversation to get them to go deeper. Okay. Everything doesn't have to be all segmented and covered by somebody who's like, I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say. This is why it's live, because I didn't want to take the time. Not that I didn't want to take, it's that I have all these thoughts and I'm trying to get them out. And hopefully I'll be able to turn this into a blog post or something that will help you even more. But I guess the point was that people look to curriculum to cover everything, and yet curriculums don't cover everything. And they cover what the people who created the curriculum have decided to cover. That's what they cover, okay? And they're not covering all of the aspects of language arts. And they may be covering the aspects that you feel are the most important, but you need to decide, and this is going to depend a bit on your personal philosophy and your vision. Are you just wanting to say you covered language arts, or are you wanting to really help your child move to the next level? And if you just want to cover things, that is fine. There are a lot of people who homeschool and who want to cover exactly the same thing as what the kids are doing in school, in which case you're probably not looking for a homeschool curriculum. You're wanting to look at what schools are using in your area. And you're doing that, you're covering all the stuff, the local stuff, but you're wanting to do it for whatever reason at home. But a lot of people, eh, and some people are turning to the local curriculum, local standards, thinking like you have to be at least at that level. But again, language arts is far more complicated than that. You just need to keep them moving forward in reading and writing. Keep having those conversations with them. Keep giving them the opportunity to listen, be it you reading to them, podcasts, viewing and listening are part of movie studies. That can absolutely be part of your language arts. And I just I don't want you getting caught up and thinking you need to figure out the right curriculum and thinking you need a curriculum that covers everything. Start with the simplest thing that you can implement, okay? And remind yourself that it is a tool and that it might be a tool that turns out not to be a good tool for your child. It might be a tool that turns out to be fantastic for your child. Either way, it's still a tool there to help you move your child forward in reading and writing. Most kids will move forward in reading and writing simply by being given the opportunity to read and write. The more they read, the more likely they are to have good sentence structure, for example. The more they read, the more likely they are to use at least periods. They might need a little bit of guidance for things like commas and things like that. My personal experience is that a lot of the worksheets and whatnot that I've even used because I'm thinking, oh, these kids need some work on this and this and this. When it's somebody else's sentences, it doesn't really help them that much. It there are only certain brains that tend to go, okay, I can take this and apply it to my writing. It ends up becoming more of a thing. Well, do you remember when we did this thing? That's what you need to do here. Like it's using their writing to give them the lessons that they need for the grammar and all of the mechanics and everything is far more effective. That's not to say that you can't have a tool that will help reinforce things, but it needs to be a tool that's really going to reinforce what they need. So figure out, what do they need? Do they need anything other than just books to read? Do they need anything other than just the encouragement or maybe the forcing to write a journal entry about what they learned that day, or to write about a character that they like in a book? Or and then when you see their writing, what is it that they need? If they're reading a book that they're not really understanding, then you go, is any curriculum really going to have covered the words or the theme or whatever it is in that book that's causing problems, right? The simplest curriculum is no curriculum. The simplest way to go about language arts, and this is something I learned while doing my teaching degree from my class on teaching language arts at the elementary level, was you don't need fancy resources. It should be there to support you. So, for example, I have used spelling programs. I've used sequential spelling because when I learned enough about it, I went, I think this could really help these students. I used it in a classroom setting as well, and a lot of the kids didn't need it, and did have everybody do it. I did a shortened version of all the different, lists. I did shortened versions because it was going to just take so long, but a lot of the kids needed that extra little help, and so I used the sequential spelling, and it did get a bunch of them thinking more about breaking down the words, right? It had to be a tool. If I had just gone and used any spelling curriculum, it wouldn't have worked because it would have been busy work. It would have been things just for them to do and not necessarily what they needed to move forward, right? So that's what I want you to do when you're thinking about your curriculum. If you're going to use one, if you need one, if you feel like you need one, don't rush into anything. You can just move forward with your kids right now by reading with them, reading to them, having them read to you, maybe. Some kids do much better just reading on their own and then telling you about what they read. Figuring out some way to have writing as part of the day. Maybe it's writing lists, maybe it's writing little memos to each other, it kind of depends on the age of your kids, right? But and then if it's fine to keep looking at these language arts curriculums, but don't feel like you have to wait until you figure out the curriculum you're going to use to get started. You can start with books today. You can start with paper and pen today, or a word processor. The kids can even dictate into word processors and it'll write it out for them. And that can actually be a way to some kids learn how to read some words and they learn punctuation, and go over it with them. If you're wanting completely independent work, yeah, you'll probably have to have a curriculum. But, well, no, I said that, but no, that's not true because my daughter was very independent in her language arts because she didn't need anything other than to keep moving forward. So it was always about getting more books from the library, buying more books, reading the things that she read, encouraging her or wrote, encouraging her to write more and asking her questions about her writing so that it got her thinking more about what she was going to write. And if I had gone with a curriculum just to say, yeah, we did all these pages, she would not have developed the way that she was able to because I would have been confining her to the limits of a curriculum. I have no idea if this is going to have any impact on those of you who are kind of stuck with this thought, you need a curriculum, you need a curriculum, you need a curriculum. Please tell me in the comments how you're feeling about what I've said, um, any questions you have, because I'm not saying don't use a curriculum. I have used different curriculums. I've tried different things because what I was for different reasons. In one case, it was that I did want something that could be a little more independent. And this was a student who did need lots of interaction to get anything done in terms of language arts. When I say students, I not all the kids that I homeschooled were my kids. I homeschooled some kids who were from other families, and so sometimes I was trying to find something different to reach this child and to help that child move forward in their skills. And a lot of it didn't work, and that was fine because I tried, right? I was really, really drawn to sunlight. Everything's laid out for you, but that was also a problem. Everything was laid out for me, and the books were all chosen, and it felt like it didn't give enough room for the kids to pick the books that they wanted and for us to read what we wanted and to do what we wanted. Plus, I homeschooled my kids in French and Sunlight is in English, which was a whole other issue. But I did look at curriculums. I looked at them every year, always in mind of, is this going to help us move forward? Not is this going to make sure I cover everything I'm supposed to cover? Because there is no supposed to. Okay. There is no supposed to. You might, unless you live in some area where you have to meet certain standards. A lot of places, there aren't any specific standards you need to meet. For language arts, think about that. You're reading, writing, speaking, listening, and viewing. There's so many different ways to do that without a curriculum, as long as they're engaging in those activities. And if they're engaging in them in ways that they enjoy, they're going to learn it faster. But as long as they're engaging in those activities, then you're covering it. It doesn't have to be specific things for specific grade levels. Okay, it doesn't have to be specific vocabulary for grade 3 versus grade 6. It doesn't have to be specific grammar for grade 3 versus grade 1 versus grade 6, okay? All of those things are there because of how our school system has kind of lumped everything together and spread everything out in a way that makes it manageable. That's basically it. But there's no reason it has to be per grade level just because of your child's age. Okay. I think I'm going off on a tangent here, but I hope this is going to help those of you who are like struggling trying to figure out what to do, because it doesn't have to be that complicated. It really doesn't. It really, really doesn't. You don't need separate grammar. You don't need separate spelling necessarily. If it's going to be there, it should be a support and not what's in control of what you're going to do. Okay. All right. Again, I hope this helps. I hope I'll be able to come on more lives. But the school year's starting back up, so we'll see. I'm still doing stuff, sharing ideas in my Bliss-Filled homeschooling group on Facebook if you're wanting to join. Just I share all kinds of tips and different like learning ideas that aren't curriculum based. Okay. I just sometimes share curriculums that I find interesting or that might be good for, particular situations or whatever. So I'm not against curriculum. I'm against starting with curriculum and thinking that we have to find the right thing. Like it needs to be the tool that's serving you and not the other way around. Okay. I do also have my freebie available still. I have updated it for this year with some extra bonus things in the final pages to do with learning activities and uh there's a few different bonus things. I'm trying to remember which ones I added. Anyhow, there's bonus pages in the freebie. It's what is it called, my freebie? It is the back to homeschool guide. Okay. So, starting this year off without resistance, easing into things. And you might go, well, I've already started the school year. But if you're struggling maybe to get into a rhythm or where everybody's already feeling kind of like, oh, check it out. It will be, I'll add it to the description, but you can also find it on my, like the main area of my YouTube profile, I guess you could call it. And it will get sent to you by email, and you can have that to maybe get just ideas. If you feel like the school year is going well, maybe you'll still get some ideas. And you can use it any time during the year to restart after maybe illness or vacation or just life blew up. All right. Okay, you guys, You have a great rest of the day, and I do hope to hear from you guys in the comments of any feedback. Any feedback. All right. Okay, bye, guys.